Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Hope that you are all doing well and staying safe. Here is Mariam Shref, a senior petroleum engineering student at the Lebanese American University. Welcome to the fourth and last lecture of our course, Develop and Enhance Personal and Organizational Leadership Skills, presented by special guest speaker Mr. Mohammed Al Shura. For those who missed previous lectures, you can visit Arab Gore's YouTube channel, where all session recordings are uploaded. So let me begin by reintroducing Mr. Al Shura. He's a believer in change with an open mindset for new experiences, practices, and challenges. A passionate, diversified learning and talent management professional with more than 15 years of dedicated experience in training delivery, workshop facilitation, program design and curriculum development, executive coaching, and human development within a variety of corporates, cultures, and industries. Moreover, he has been working closely with line managers to achieve goals and objectives, and with HR teams to establish systems and learning solutions to manage local and regional projects. Mr. El Shura holds a master's degree in organizational psychology from Liverpool John Moores University and a Bachelor of Political Science from the American University in Cairo. He's a professional certified coach from the International Coaching Federation with dual specialization, executive and life coach, and a certified manager from the Institute of Certified Professional Managers at James Madison University. Finally, he facilitated and designed more than 200 training workshops. So please join me in welcoming Mr. El Shura. So welcome and thank you for the time you dedicated for delivering these series of lectures. We highly appreciate it. And on a final note, if you have any question related to the presentation, please feel free to drop it down in the Q&A section. And now, without any further ado, Mr. El Shura, the mic is yours.
Sure. Thank you, Mariam, so much. And thank you, Dr. Ahmed. And thank you, everybody, for this introduction. Again, I want to thank you for giving me such a great opportunity to be among your great participants and audience. I'm really privileged to be part of this very interesting and very ambitious initiative. Today is our fourth lecture in a series. We have been talking about leadership from personal and from organizational perspectives. We have in the past lectures, for those who did not attend and even for those who attended, we have been talking about the essential traits and skills of leadership. We talked about empowerment, the meaning behind empowerment, the school of leadership that leads to the empowerment of self and the empowerment of the team, the empowerment of others. So empowerment, as we mentioned, is a very suitable synonym for leadership. We talked about delegation, different types of delegation. We also talked about coaching and how coaching is one of the tools that an empowering leader can use to empower others, and how coaching does not provide an easy solution for others, and it empower others to endeavor and to do a lot of efforts to reach the solution. Coaching, as we mentioned, is answering a question with another question, not to intimidate the person at all, but to make the other person think of different perspectives that were never thought about before. And we covered the topic about coaching, and we started also last time talking about one of the major skills an empowering leader should have. It's not actually one skill, it's a group of skills that lie under the title of emotional intelligence. We gave a brief last time about emotional intelligence and the meaning behind emotional intelligence. I'm sorry, hold on for a minute. Sorry for interruption. So we started talking last time about emotional intelligence and the meaning behind emotional intelligence. And we said that the discovery or the breakthrough about emotional intelligence is that we started to evaluate people in a different manner, in a different way, with different perspective. So instead of just judging a person with his or her academic background, grades, and IQ tests, we started to judge people according to their emotional intelligence. And for those who are still studying at the university, for those who are already working, there is no single job interview that does not have questions about emotional intelligence, dealing with others, dealing within a team, communicating with yourself, communicating with the team, self awareness. Well, talk about yourself, introduce yourself. What do you think are your points of strength? What do you think are the most areas that you need to improve? All these questions are emotional intelligence questions because an organization want to make sure that a new hire is a person with a certain level of emotional intelligence. What does this mean? It means that the person will be able to function within this organization, will be able to deal with his managers, his peers, subordinates. He will be a team player. He will not have barriers of communication with others. He is not kind of an isolated person who does not know how to communicate with others, how to have self awareness, how to regulate emotions, how to regulate feelings, stresses. So all these things that we are mentioning lie under also the umbrella of emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence, as we mentioned last time, and this is also the breakthrough, that it's responsible for an amount of 70% of the success of a person. And as we mentioned, it's a wide variety of skills. And again and again and again, I know I mentioned this several times before, but I always want to remind you that anything that lies under the name, anything that is categorized under the category of a skill, this means that you can learn. So when you know that there is something that is a skill, this is a good news. So this means that you can learn and improve. This is a skill. Presentation is a skill. You can get someone who is very, very shy, and you can teach this someone presentation skills for a certain amount of time, and this person start to speak in public, start to speak in front of a lot of people without feeling stressed or shy or anything. So this means that this person is learning the skill of presentation skills and is becoming a better presenter. The same is emotional intelligence. As you can see here, this triangle is the road map of emotional intelligence, or the five major components of emotional intelligence, which is self-awareness, knowing oneself, knowing your capabilities, abilities, strengths, areas of improvement, regulation, regulating your own thoughts, your own reactions, your own stressors, self-motivation, how to motivate oneself, empathy, how to listen effectively, how to empathize with other people, how to listen effectively and actively by interacting and putting yourself in someone else's shoes. This is empathy. And finally, effective relationships. And actually, effective relationships does not have any particular definition other than it's the sum of all the other four: awareness, self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, and empathy. They all lead at the end to effective relationships with oneself and with others. We talked about self-awareness last time, and I want to remind you that self-awareness is our base. Self-awareness is a journey during our whole life. During our whole life, we spend our time discovering ourselves, knowing ourselves. So life is a journey of self-awareness. You can never, ever, ever at a certain age, 30, 60, 80, you can never come at any given age and you just say, okay, well, I am now 100% self-aware. This will never happen. No one on earth is 100% self-aware. So you go through this journey, and by experience, by hard work, by interacting with people, and by challenges, all these are factors that enhance your own self-awareness. You discover yourself, and discovering yourself has two major aspects. You can discover yourself by doing your own homework, like, for example, by going through psychometric assessments, the ones I mentioned last time. If you remember, I mentioned that there are famous psychometric assessments that show your strengths, your potential, your leadership skills, your emotional intelligence skills, your leadership style. And I give you these three examples. They are among the most important and the most credible and valid psychometric assessments worldwide. They are the MBTI, the DISC, and Enneagram. Of course, there are other tests, but these are the most famous that I remember, that I dealt with, and they have all proven that they are very effective. So self-awareness has two perspectives. The first perspective, or the first direction, or the first path, is that you work on your own. You discover yourself on your own. But you have to believe that you will never, ever discover yourself just on your own. Yes, exactly. You still need to know how other people think about you, the feedback of others. Okay, so whatever effort, if you have done a lot of effort in the journey of self-awareness and you have went through a lot of psychometric assessments, you've done the SWOT analysis that we talked about last time. This is excellent. This is marvelous. This is very good. But again, you will never ever increase your self-awareness unless you start to get feedback from other people, your siblings, your family, brother, sister, wife, father, mother, friends, your subordinates, your colleagues at work. We need to develop the culture of accepting and receiving feedback of others, because this is the second parallel path of self-awareness. The first path is that you make your own journey. The second perspective, the second road, the second way is that you start accepting and knowing and listening to feedback from others. This is very important. If we give, if you want to divide percentages, I would give 50% you work on your own, and the other 50% depends on how you accept feedback from others, because this is very important. Okay? So this is the first most important skill of self-awareness, of emotional intelligence, which is to develop your own self-awareness. Okay, it's an endless journey. It will never end. Okay, and going through the other stages of emotional intelligence. So if we start work on, if a person starts working on his own self-regulation or self-motivation, this does not mean that he's no more working on self-awareness. No, self-awareness is an ongoing process. It never ends. So when I'm working on my self-regulation, I'm working on my self-awareness as well. When I'm working on my self-motivation, I'm working on my self-awareness as well. Exactly the same applies to empathy and effective relationships. Okay, self-awareness can start from a very simple situation to a very complicated feedback. Self-awareness can start when you go on a trip with 2 or 3 friends to spend 3-4 days in whatever place by the beach, and you start receiving simple feedback from your friends that you never heard before. For example, I believe that I'm a very not organized person, a disorganized person. So once I traveled with my friends and I started to put my things in a very orderly manner. They started to tell me, "Oh, why this person? Come on, how can you see this person is very organized? You put everything in order." So I was like surprised. Am I really organized? Oh, I'm the last person in the world who is organized. I'm always messing things. So this creates self-awareness. Sometimes you believe something about yourself which is not true. Sometimes people are harsh on themselves. Yeah, and they burden themselves with some negatives that are not realistic, and they are not really from their skills. Okay, so this is the self-awareness journey we talked about last time. This is one of the tools that we use to enhance self-awareness, which is the personal SWOT analysis. You can take a paper and pencil and work this on your own, write your own strengths, your own weaknesses. What are the opportunities? As we mentioned last time, strengths lead to opportunities, and weaknesses, if not dealt with, they may lead to be a threat at work, threat in your own personal life. Someone who is very nervous person, okay, and he's not admitting that he's a nervous person, and everybody around him is complaining that he is very nervous, and he's not improving this. So this will be a major threat. This can threaten his own personal life, can threaten his professional life as well. Okay. So this is one example for a tool to enhance self-awareness, which is personal SWOT analysis. I mentioned these types of psychometric assessments, MBTI, DISC, Enneagram, and we start now the self-regulation. The self-regulation is the second important skill in the pyramid of self-awareness that you just saw. Okay, so in self-awareness, in self-regulation, you should not start thinking about self-regulation unless you have a good level of self-awareness. Okay. Now I am aware of a good level of my own strengths, my own emotions, my own areas for improvement. So I know now what I want to regulate. If I'm very poor in self-awareness, so what exactly am I going to regulate? Once I step into thinking about doing self-regulation for myself, I have to have a good degree of awareness. I cannot start practicing self-regulation and I don't know myself. I have to have a certain degree of self-awareness. I have to have a certain degree of knowing my emotions. What are my triggers? What makes me anxious? What makes me nervous? What makes me happy? When do I lose my temper? When I have good degree of patience? What are my motives? What demotivates me? So I have to achieve a certain level or a certain degree of self-awareness to be able to start practicing self-awareness, self-regulation. Because if I want to practice self-regulation and I did not do a good homework in discovering my self-awareness, then the self-regulation will not be an appropriate step, because you still do not know a lot about yourself. So you need to know to acquire a certain good level of self-awareness, go through different exercises of self-awareness so that you can step to the next step, which is the self-regulation. By self-regulation, I want to know how can I regulate my emotions. Well, if you remember when when we defined emotional intelligence, we said that an emotionally intelligent person is not a walking angel, is not a perfect person. No, not at all. He's just a normal person like you, like me, like anybody. Any one of us can be an emotionally intelligent person. An emotionally intelligent person gets anxious and gets stressed and gets sad and gets happy, excited, motivated, but within a certain framework. Within a certain framework. I can get angry at someone and I can show my anger just by showing some facial expressions that I'm angry. Other one, his only way of expressing anger is to punch the person in front of him. Okay, so this is what we mean by emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is not just to be an angel. No, you can show anger, you can show stress, but you have to make sure that these emotions are regulated within a certain limit that does not harm yourself. Because believe me, if you punch someone, you're not harming this someone. Believe me, you're just harming yourself. And please take this as an advice from a friend. If you just feel that the only emotion that you have is to punch someone and you go punch this one, believe me, you are the only loser in this case. Okay, so the pain, okay, you will hit this person, so he will feel the pain, and the second day he will be fine. But you will keep struggling inside yourself. There will be a big fight inside about what you've done. It may ruin your day. It may ruin your whole life. You may punch someone who is stronger than you, and he can come and beat you a lot. So it's actually not exaggerated emotions of anger and stress, emotions that go beyond limits. Believe me, when they harm you, not the person that is imposed, that this emotion is imposed or reflected on. They harm you in the first place. Okay, so I give you an example. If I'm going in the morning, going to work, and I have this crazy driver who was like about to make an accident. He was going to hit my car. So I have actually two options: to stop and get this driver out of his car and beat this guy who was going to kill me, or I can control my anger and keep moving to catch my work. So in the first option, if I just go and pick a fight with this person, this may ruin my day, it may ruin my life. You can never ever be sure about the reaction of this other person. So it can damage a lot of things for you. In the second option, when you manage to control this angry emotion and you kept going, your day went fine, you arrive work on time, and you were able to do your job in a timely manner and a satisfactory level. So everything went fine. And believe me, after just 1 hour, you will forget this person, you will forget everything that happened, and everything goes on. So this is self-regulation. You can read this. Actually, Christine Casper is one of the people who wrote the book of emotional intelligence with Daniel Goleman. She works with Daniel Goleman in the emotional intelligence center that he already established. She said that if we are in a heightened state of agitation or anger, we cannot make good decisions, we cannot reason well. Absolutely. Okay, so practicing self-regulation is about accept responsibility, choosing your emotional responses, learn to reframe stressful situations into ones that are challenging, be aware of and learn to manage your own emotions and triggers. One of the most important aspects that you can search or you can discover through the journey of self-awareness, awareness, not regulation, is that you need to ask yourself, what are your triggers? What are your triggers? What do you mean by triggers? By triggers, I mean what are the actions, the incidents, uh, keywords uh, that when happen, they intimidate you, make you furious, make you super angry. Okay, so these are the triggers. You have to ask yourself, what are my triggers? And just by knowing your triggers, by creating the awareness about your own triggers, then you now have the knowledge. So your mind will be screening these triggers, and when they happen, you unconsciously you will know, yes, I know this is a trigger that triggers me, and I will not be triggered because you have already created the awareness. Okay. Okay, we have here also the concept of the paradigm shift. When someone finally sees the composite picture in another way. I give you an example. I know many of you know this story. I know it's a very famous story. You remember that there was this lady at the airport who was sitting waiting for her plane. She was sitting beside this gentleman. And this lady, she bought a box of biscuits and she started eating her biscuits before going into the plane. She got very angry because whenever she takes a piece of the cookies or the biscuit, the other gentleman takes another one. She started staring at this. It's crazy. When she takes a piece, he takes a piece. When she takes a piece, he takes a piece. She became so furious, so stressed, and she started staring and huffing at him. And now the box of the biscuits has only one biscuit remaining. So the gentleman sitting beside her was making her really nervous. He took this last piece of biscuits and he just divided it into two halves and gave her a half, and he took another half. So she started yelling at him. She took her bag and she stormed to the plane. And she was very nervous about this crazy man. And when the plane took off, this lady opened her small bag, and guess what did she find? Yes, exactly. She found her box of biscuits inside her bag, untouched, exactly as it is, because she was the one eating from the box of biscuits of the other gentleman. Okay? So see who was not actually who should be furious and who should be angry and who should be stressed at this situation. Although the other person, the other man, the gentleman, he did not show any sign of stress or anger, and he left her eating with him. And even the last biscuit, he decided to divide into two halves, and he gave her half, and he took one half. Why are we saying this story? We are saying this story because this is one of the tools that help us practice self-regulation. Not every person you see, not every action, not every person who makes a certain action that is intimidating for you, or any action that makes you nervous, he's never ever think that this person is doing so because he wants to harm you. He wants to make you angry. This person is evil and he's doing evil to make you angry. Never think about it this way, because this is just, it could be, by the way, it could be, but it's just like one answer to the question among hundreds of other questions, hundreds of other answers. Okay, so you just go to the worst probability that this person is evil and he's doing evil to me and he wants me to get nervous and he wants me to get angry. We always go to this negative thought, although there are hundreds of other options Okay, this driver that I was just telling you about, you can never know. Maybe he has a patient and he's catching this patient at the hospital. He needs to catch. There is something wrong with his kids. He wants to catch their school, whatever. So every single person of us, each one of us has his own life, his own excuses, his own issues, his own matters. Okay, so never ever think that the world is conspiring against you, because there are millions and billions living on this planet other than you. Okay, so this is what we mean about self-regulation. This is what we mean about paradigm shift. Paradigm shift is that when you think negatively about a certain situation and you suddenly discover something that make you 180% change your mind. This is what we call a paradigm shift. Okay, and I advise you that you read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People for Stephen Covey. I know maybe many of you have already read this book. And in this book, when he was talking about self-regulation, he mentioned something called the 90-10 principle. The 90-10 principle. What is the 90-10 principle in brief? To explain the 90-10 principle, he mentioned a story of a man who has a daughter and a wife, and his daughter was going to school in the morning, and he was going to catch a very important meeting at work. So he went to have breakfast with his wife, and his daughter, unfortunately, she spilled the coffee on his clothes. And he started to shout a lot at his daughter, and his daughter started to cry, and he went to change his clothes, and his daughter was in a very bad situation. She was not able to catch the bus because she was crying. She didn't want to catch the bus. So he had to drop her at the school before going to this important meeting that he is already late for. So he started to drive very fast, and he got a ticket by the police on his way. So his girl arrived late at school, and she was still crying, and he arrived late at work. And after he arrived late at work, he discovered that he forgot very important files at home. So his whole day was ruined. Why are we saying this story? This story is an example. So what do you think? What do you think was the only destined incident that was like destiny in this story? Yes, exactly, the coffee. When the coffee was spilled, this is what the only thing that nobody had a hand in. Okay, so it's not about what is destined in our life. It's about how we deal with these distant incidents in our lives. So the spill of the coffee was destined, which was like destiny, but the way he dealt with the remaining part of his day was his choice, not the destiny. He could have dealt with this incident in a totally different way, without being angry, without shouting at his daughter, just going fast, changing his clothes without shouting. His daughter goes to school, catching the bus. So what shapes our life is that, okay, there are like 10% of our lives that we don't have hand in, we cannot control, we cannot change, can be destined. But there are like 90%. This 90% is our way, our reaction to the 10%. How do we react to the 10%? Okay, so it's your choice. You can react in a way that makes your life easy, or you can react in a way that can ruins your life. It's your choice. Okay, you have a lot in hand, you can change, you are valuable, you are a human being, you have unlimited abilities and capabilities, and you can do a lot, you can change a lot. Okay, so this is the self-regulation. You have to keep a habit of dealing with stress. There are like millions of ways to deal with stress. Each and every one of us can have his own way, like a certain sport that you play, that you go and practice. You can have like half an hour a day for yourself, reading, walking, not necessarily jogging, just walking, listening to your favorite music, reading few pages of a book, just at least half an hour for your own self, just meditating, not doing anything, staring in the ceiling, okay? But just make sure that you have your own time to avoid or to fight stress, to overcome stress. You need to have your own quality time with your own self and with your family, of course. So try to make a habit of doing a certain activity that makes you happy, whatever this activity is. Watching a movie, watching a football game, walking, listening to music, playing a certain sport. It will really make a lot of difference. Okay, so actually we're going, I just want to cover all the topics related to emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a very huge, big topic that can never ever be covered in one session or two sessions or even 5 sessions. So I'm just mentioning here highlights, main topics that you can go through and start researching further about this topic. I can take one question before starting self-motivation. Okay, Mariam, are there any questions?
Now we don't have, so I think we
Okay,
can proceed with this.
I can see here weakness and threat difference.
Oh, yes, now we have
Yes,
one.
okay, weakness. Okay,
Weak between weakness and threat.
yes, Zikra. Well, weaknesses, for example, each and every one of us has certain weaknesses, and I don't want to call it weaknesses. I call it areas that need improvement. Okay, if you are not aware of these areas and if you are not dealing to improve them, then they may lead to be a threat. As I mentioned, some people I personally know who are very nervous, always very nervous, and they never admit it, and they never have the awareness, the self-awareness that they are nervous. And actually, this is causing them a lot of problems with others. So it's not just a problem, it's far beyond a problem. It is now a threat, threatening their relationships with others and their professional relationships as well. So if a certain weakness or a certain area of improvement that you don't have an awareness to and you're not working to improve, yes, it may turn to threaten you either at work or in your personal life or whatever. Okay. Okay. So we start the self motivation part. Remember the pyramid, the emotional intelligence pyramid? First, there was self awareness. Second, there was self regulation. And third, there is self motivation. Can you just tell me why is it self motivation, not just motivation? Can you write in the chat why we have it here, one of the skills of emotional intelligence as self motivation, not just motivation? Why? Why do you think? Mhm. Any answers? To motivate myself without needing others around. Yes, good, very good. So why? Why? Okay, so why I should not need motivation from others? Okay. Any other answers? Okay. To defeat inner fear, mm, because you are dealing with yourself and did not involve others, we exert considerable effort without any expectation of reward. The performance itself becomes its own reward, okay? Because we need to improve ourselves to achieve goals. Okay, great answers, great answers. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Yes, you know why is it self-motivation? To be honest, defining motivation, the source of motivation comes through two ways: extrinsic and intrinsic. So we all are desperate for external motivation from others, from friends, from managers, from professors, from colleagues, even simple motivations. You look nice today. You lost a lot of weight. Okay, this is the motivation that we all always aim for. So we always look for external motivation. Money, of course, money can be a way of motivation, absolutely. So external motivation is very important. But you know what is best and why we mention here self-motivation? Because self-motivation is everlasting, is endless. The source of motivation is you. So if you are tied or linked to a group of people who always motivate you, and overnight you did not find any of these people around you, can you imagine how motivated you are? You will not be motivated at all because the source of motivation is external. But if you try to motivate your own self, try to make your own source of motivation from within, this is the eternal motivation that never ends. So, how can I create this self motivation? I can create this self motivation by having my own goals in life. Planning, yes, planning. Pick a paper and pencil and go Google the Stephen Covey self motivation, or the Stephen Covey put the first things first and how to plan for your own life. You will find a lot of calendars and a lot of clues and a lot of information about how to plan for your own lives. Imagine a wheel of your life and the different aspects of your life, like professional life, family, health, financial, spiritual, extracurricular activities, and start to plan for each of these fields. So planning for yourselves, having your own personal mission statement, knowing your own goals, the activities that you want to achieve in life, this creates a source of inner motivation. So now you are motivated because you have a plan. You have activities that you want to achieve. You need to read certain books. You need to save a certain amount of money. You need to play a certain sport to keep walking. You need to spend a certain amount of time with the family and friends. So you have a plan and you are implementing this plan. So whenever there is no external motivation, you will be motivated with your own plan that you need to achieve. Okay? So this is self-motivation. When we are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all your thoughts break their bounds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new, great, and wonderful world. Okay, and this is one of the theories of motivation, our famous Maslow hierarchy of needs. And actually, this Abraham Maslow is a very famous scientist who made this motivation theory. And he said that there are different levels of motivation. First, we have our basic needs. Basic needs, what do we mean by basic needs? Just like food and drink, okay, like very basic needs. And then we have safety and security. I need to be living in a place that has a ceiling that has minimum level of security, and that I feel safe in this place. Then we go to the sense of belonging, that I belong to a certain clan, I belong to a certain family, a certain group of people. And then the self-esteem. The self-esteem is that the self-esteem actually comes from other people. When other people start to praise a certain person for anything, praise this person for having a certain educational degree, educational certificate, or wearing something new, or having a new car. So he gains self-esteem that he has something to be praised about. And finally, self-actualization. A person who feels self-actualized. A person who feels self-actualized is a person who feels that he has achieved what he wants in life. And actually, this theory, there were like a lot of debates about this theory. So it's not like nothing is perfect. So this theory, just to explain motivation, but actually there were a lot of debates about how genuine and how accurate this theory is. But what we need to know about this theory in this part about self-motivation is that uh, if a person, for example, if a person does not have like the minimum of the minimum, like the basic needs, okay, the food, the drink, he will never be able to think about self-esteem and self and belonging. Okay, so they are like kind of cumulative. I need to have basic needs first, and certain degree of safety and security if I live in a country that is not safe. For example, there are like civil war or something. So here the safety and security is being threatened. So it will be really difficult for me to start thinking about the belonging or self-esteem and self-actualization. Most important here is that the self-actualization. For the first impression, when people see this theory, they started to say that self-actualization is something that never happens. It only happens for like very, very, very famous scientists like Einstein, and he never feels it in his life. It's like a status that he is given after his death. Okay, he has done a lot to humanity, and therefore he is self-actualized, but unfortunately he's not here to enjoy this self-actualization status. Although the debate here was, no, this is not right. What I want you to know about this theory is that the definition of each single level of motivation is different between me, you, and each one of us. Basic needs, the definition of basic needs is different between every single human being has a definition of basic needs. Okay, basic needs for someone like can be like a small tiny cheese sandwich. For another one can be a biryani chicken. Okay, so the definition varies a lot between human beings. So basic needs, each and every single one of us has a certain definition for the basic needs, as well as the safety and security. Okay. Well, I live in for example, I live in a safe country with no civil war. So I believe that I have a very good degree of safety and security. Someone else may believe, no, hell no. I have to live in a compound with high walls and security people to guard the compound. So the definition varies. The belonging. Okay, someone may believe that, okay, I just want to belong to a very small family. Other people need to belong to a large group of people. So self-actualization actually is a feeling. It's a belief. Yes, you can feel it in your whole life. It's like the power of now. You can be a very simple, humble employee, but you feel self-actualized. You feel that you should not reinvent rocket science to be self-actualized. Like, I have the minimum, I have my basic needs, I wake up with a ceiling above my head, and I have food for today, and I can use my hands and legs, so I have everything in the whole world. I'm not missing anything. Okay. Other people may not be satisfied by this. So the self-actualization definition for other people may be inventing rocket science. But believe me, these people sometimes they suffer because they never have the feeling of self-actualization. I'm not saying that you do not be ambitious. You should be ambitious. You should shoot for the moon, as they're saying. You should be very ambitious, but you have to enjoy the power of now. You should not be spending your whole life running after this huge, tremendous invention that is going to rock the whole world. Just enjoy the moment. Enjoying the moment and being mindful is having a self actualization at this particular moment. At this particular moment, just think about it, make all your focus and thoughts in this particular moment, and live your moment of self actualization. Okay, so if you remember when we were talking about staff motivation, we said that each person in a certain job has to feel a degree of motivation. So the mind should be motivated by learning. I should be, if I am doing something that is not adding to me, that I am not learning from, then the mind will be demotivated. And the heart is equal to relationships. So I should be also having quality relationships with others. If my relations with others is not really appropriate or good relationships, then the heart will not be motivated. The body, yes, I want to be self-actualized. I want to work the job that I really love, but at the same time, I want to have like a work-life balance. I don't want to work 12 or 14 hours a day and be very exhausted and start to feel burnout after a few days. So the body has to be motivated by not being always exhausted, and the spirit is motivated by finding the value in what you're doing. So you have to know where are you fitting within the big puzzle, and you have to believe in what you're doing, that you are doing something that has value. Whatever this something that you are doing, you have to believe in the value of the thing that you're doing. Okay, so these are the aspects of motivation. When you are planning for your life, when you are doing your own self plan, when you're creating your own self motivation, defining your goals, they have to be specific. You have to put prizes for yourself. For example, my target this month is to read 3 books, for example. Okay, so if I reach my target, well, I will go by the beach in the weekend. So you have to give yourself prizes. Okay, if I will go on diet for this month, if I lose like 3 kilograms, 4 kilograms, I will eat the large, very large pizza to regain the 4 kilograms again. Okay, so you have to create your own prizes. They have to be individual, related to you, not anybody else. You are planning for yourself. You have to keep reviewing your plan, your goals. Keep reviewing and make sure that they are representing what you really want. They have to be inspiring. So you are planning for something that you really want. Okay, for example, if you never ever loved like cycling and you hate cycling, and you, from all the sports in the whole world, you just write down in your plan that I want to go cycling. Okay, plan for something that you are going to do. Plan for something that you really want, something that you really love. And finally, time bound. It has to have time. Anything that does not have time can never ever be measured. I want to read 2 books within 1 month. Okay. So after the end of the month, I can measure how successful I am from my target. If I just read one book, then I'm like 50% of my target was achieved. If I read like 2 books, then 100% were achieved. So there has to be time for all your goals. Okay, we can take a question if you have. Q&As. Any questions?
No, actually, we
Okay.
don't have.
Okay, so we proceed with empathy. Okay, so empathy is a very important part of emotional intelligence. Remember, we started with self-awareness, self-regulation, self-motivation. It's like self, self, self. So now I have adjusted a lot of things about my own self. So I will start now to approach others. I will start to deal with others. So now we have empathy. So empathy is the first skill where it's not related just to your own self, it's related to others. So now you have worked on yourself in the past 3 selves. So now you want to create empathy. How to listen, how to listen effectively and actively to others, how to practice active listening. Remember when we talked about listening, when we were discussing coaching, empathetic listening is to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Empathetic listening is like the key word or the magic word for effective communication. In a communication process, maybe you all know, we have a sender and a receiver, right? But believe me, the responsibility for the success of the communication process is not just the responsibility of the sender, and it's not just the responsibility of the receiver. It's like a mutual responsibility between the sender and the receiver. Okay? So one of the responsibilities of both is that when the other is speaking, the another one should be an empathetic listener. So in a communication process, now I am the sender. So if I give you the floor and you start asking questions, who will be the sender in this case? You will be the sender. So I have to listen to the questions carefully. And when I start to answer, now I'm the sender. And who is the receiver? You are the receiver. So now you are practicing empathetic listening. So empathetic listening is like the highest level of listening. You listen with interaction. You listen by giving non-verbal signs that you are concentrating, that you understand or do not understand. So it's not necessarily that empathy is like whenever the person is speaking, I'm doing like this. No, this is not empathy. Okay, maybe someone is speaking and I do not understand this someone, so excuse me, what you're saying? This is empathy, by the way. So empathy is not just saying, oh yeah, everything you're saying is great. No, empathy is is a non-verbal and verbal interaction with the sender to give the sender signs, verbal and non-verbal signs, if this person, the receiver, is understanding or not. Okay, so this is empathy. Sorry. Okay, if people will stop for a moment and put themselves in another person's shoes, it will help them modify their own behavior. It will help them develop relationships with those people. Okay, so empathy is try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. How to practice empathy? We can practice empathy. Empathy means recognizing and responding appropriately to the emotions of others. Recognizing and responding appropriately to the emotions of others. Can you imagine someone who is telling you, a close friend who is telling you a very sad story, and you keep like, yeah. Okay, can you imagine? Is this empathy? Yeah, okay. By expressing empathy, you also create empathy in others. So when people feel that you are an empathetic listener, they will be also empathetic listeners when you start talking. Realize that emotions impact such measurable goals like productivity, efficiency, and customer satisfaction. Absolutely, empathy is very effective in these cases. Again, here are the different levels. Here are the different levels of listening. First, ignore. Okay, ignoring people, like someone is talking and you are just not giving any verbal or non-verbal clues, which is far away from being empathetic. Pretending is very tricky. Someone who's just like doing like this, oh yes, what you're saying, and he's not actually concentrating, just pretending, giving non-verbal signs that he's concentrating, although he's not. Selective. Yeah, selective is someone who is trying, is not listen, is not a good listener. He just trying to pick few words and make a certain scenario according to his own beliefs and his own experience. Attentive is someone who is concentrating but not giving any signs, but the effective is the empathetic listener who is giving verbal and non-verbal clues, who is interacting with the sender and who is listening very well and making sure to raise questions to make sure that he understands very well, to rephrase what the sender is saying, to make sure that he received the message exactly as the sender wants to send. Okay, so this is the empathetic listening. And at the end, effective relationships does not have any particular definition, except that it is the total of working through your self-awareness, working through your self-regulation, self-motivation, and empathy, and the total and the result at the end will be having effective relationships with your own self and with others. I really wish you all the best. You have a lot of homework to do on your own. Please, I advise that you work on your own personal plans, your personal mission statements. Try to determine what motivates you from inside. Try to determine your triggers. How can you determine your triggers and control your temper? Read about the 90-10 principle. Work through the psychometric assessments and improve your self-awareness levels. So these are what we just mentioned in this lecture. They're just highlights, and you have to work more, research more about these topics. And I wish you all the best. Thank you very much, and it's time to take questions.
Thank you so much for this insightful session.
Thank you.
Please, if you have any question before we end this session, drop it down in the Q&A section. And as a reminder, this session has been recorded and it will be uploaded soon on Arab Go's YouTube channel, so you can rewatch it. And please don't forget to check Google Classroom for any quizzes or final exam and further announcements. Okay, so I believe till now we don't have any question. So that's all for today. Thank you for your collaboration.
Thank you very much.
We highly appreciate it, and we are looking forward to having you in future events and webinars.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you very much for you, Mariam, and thank you very much for Dr. Ahmed. And my pleasure to be with all the participants in this workshop.
I hope you all guys enjoyed the session today. Now have a nice rest of the day and best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.